gods of Olympus have abandoned me.
The PlayStation 2 was home to many PlayStation icons we love today, like Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper, Kingdom Hearts, Destroy All Humans, and most importantly, God of War. God of War 1, to be exact, was one of the most important and influential games, not only for the PlayStation, but for gaming in general. By having from December 2021 standings, 19 million copies sold all over the globe. This game was loved all over the world, but why was this? Follow me and let's take a deep dive into why God of War was such a massive hit.
Foul beast! I will send you back to the depths of Hades!
The development for God of War started back in 2002, and to give a little sneak peek at E3 2004, Santa Monica themselves said that it would feel and be like a Devil May Cry type of game, where you roam around the environments and beat up some enemies until you end up at a boss or and do whatever. That's how mostly God of War is, and it's rewarding for, well, one, after you beat these bosses, you get their abilities. Like after you beat the first boss, they'll get Poseidon's Wrath, and after you beat Medusa, they'll get her head to turn people into stone, and many more. But that's not all you get. Killing enemies will give you orbs. Orbs are orbs that are used to upgrade your weapons and level up. Orbs are very useful, and that's the main reason why instead of stalling, you should just attack them to get orbs. Even though God of War is based on Greek mythology, it does leave out lots of facts about Greek mythology, which I'm guessing mythology fanboys are the only people who don't like this, but I'm fine with it. This gives Santa Monica Studios some freedom and choices that are actually different from the actual stories. After E3 2004, some of Santa Monica Studios told IGN that the creative team's goal was to make the player feel brutal, letting their inner beast free, and just going nuts. They said the game's combat system would have an unpropelled degree of freedom. The team designed two systems of combat, a macro system, which gives players the choice between normal combat, magical attacks, or using the QTE feature to kill a foe, and a micro system where players press a sequence of buttons to perform different actions. Puzzles were implemented, including self-contained ones that incorporate up to 3 rooms of the game, and global areas and puzzles that spread across 4 to 5 areas. IGN compared the game to the popular Prince of Persia series, which also incorporates puzzles and platforming elements, and said that while each puzzle in that series is a slight variation of it, each puzzle in God of War is its own beast. The gameplay itself is very challenging and rewarding, being because the enemies are always on you and they do a lot of damage even on the easier difficulties. As you casually go through the game, you unlock more magic like Poseidon's Rage, Medusa's Gauge, Spartan Rage, and Hades' Soul. But I gotta say, some of these are OP, like the Spartan Rage boosts your attacks by ×4 attack damage, and you can kill enemies in one swipe, while some aren't that useful, like Medusa's Gauge, which just turns the enemies to stone. The actual hand-to-hand combat is great, and that's why you mostly see games still to this day having God of War type style of gameplay. You have a lot of options to choose how you want to play. You mash square and triangle and you can grab by the press of circle, or you can be more skillful and dodge by a swipe of the L4's joystick, and dodge by pressing or holding the L1 bumper. And you don't only foot, you have rope climbing, wall jumping, puzzling, and way more. They mostly consist on intelligence and mental memory. Like for the wall climbing, it's basic climbing, but the way they jump from wall to wall is different too, and so is the puzzles. Puzzles are difficult to master and navigate through. They'll mostly be stuck with the question, what do I do? And that's the great thing about the puzzles. They really make you think on what you really need to do, and you have to think through to get past the level. And once you do figure it out, you'll feel good about yourself and be like, man, I did that by myself. There's also infinite enemies, and they're just a pain, a nuisance. They do nothing but just to distract you. And yeah, that's the point, but there's infinite of them. And that just pisses me off, especially on that bad level. As you level up your Blades of Chaos and Blades of Artemis, abilities you'll unlock more moves. These moves include a tornado spin, a jump attack, greater attack damage, and more of these make the game more interesting and less repetitive as the game goes on, because God of War itself could be repetitive without these moves. The music in God of War is great. It's because it symbolizes Greek mythology, holy ascension, war, and gods, which are the main theme of God of War. Most of the music is remixes or overtunes of the main theme and adds some new music to spice up the taste. The God of War original soundtrack, composed by Jared Marino, Ron Fish, Winfield Phillips, Mike Renegan, Chris Velasco, Winnie Waldron, and Marcelo D. Francis, was released on CD by Sony Computer Entertainment as an exclusive product for the Sony Connect Music Store on March 1st, 2005. A soundtrack was also made available for free to customers who had purchased the game via a voucher code included with the game. Several of the tracks feature voice-over passages from the video games. Dave Valentine from Square Enix Munich Online rated 8 out of 10 and praised the composers for avoiding the production of a never-ending dullness of the action themes. He complimented the soundtrack for having a large number of well-developed orchestral themes, with a noticeable creative use of ancient and eidetic music. Spencer D. of IGN gave the soundtrack a 6.9 out of 10, also praised the use of the ancient and eidetic instrumentals music, but criticized the uneven transition between tracks. In March 2010, the soundtrack was released as downloadable content as part of the God of War Trilogy soundtrack in the God of War 3 Ultimate Edition. Kratos is a warrior who serves the Greek gods of Olympus. Flashbacks reveal that he was once a successful but bloodthirsty captain of the Spartan army and led his men to several victories before being defeated by a barbarian king. Facing death, Kratos called on the god of war Ares, whom he had promised to serve if the god would spare his men and provide the power to destroy their enemies. Ares agreed and bonded the Blades of Chaos, a pair of chained blades forged in the depths of Tartarus, to his new servant Kratos, and equipped with the blades, then decapitated the barbarian king. Kratos waged war at the behest of Ares, eventually leading an attack on a village occupied by worshippers of Athena. Unknown to Kratos, Ares had secretly transported Kratos' wife and daughter to the village. During his frenetic attack on its temple, Kratos accidentally killed his family. While he is under a spell cast upon him by Ares, although Ares believed this act would free Kratos to become the perfect warrior, the horrifying Saturn Spartan instead renounced his pledge of servitude to the gods and swore vengeance against him. The oracle of this village cursed Kratos by burning the ashes of his dead family to his skin, turning it ash white and earning his nickname the Ghost of Sparta. Plagued by nightmares of his horrible deed, Kratos vowed to serve the other gods in hoping of ridding himself of the visions. When the game starts, Kratos has been serving the gods for 10 years. He kills the Hydra on behalf of Poseidon, but he still has grown tired of his service and suffering. He summons Athena, who states that if Kratos performs one final act, the murder of Ares, he'll be forgiven for his killing of his family. Ares is waging war on the city of Athens out of hatred and jealousy onto his sister Athena, who assigns Kratos to destroy Ares because Zeus has forbidden divine intervention. Athena guides Kratos to the war-torn Athens after a strange encounter with a Gardever, who encourages him to continue his tasks. Kratos battles his way to Athena's oracle, finds her and learns that the only way to defeat Ares is with the Pandora's box, a mythical artifact that grants the powers to kill a god. Kratos enters the desert of lost souls, and Athena tells him Pandora's box is hidden in a temple chained to the back of the Titan Kronos. A punishment by Zeus for Kronos' role in the Great War, Kratos summons Kronos, climbs for 3 days before reaching the temple entrance, overcomes an array of deadly traps and an army of monsters, and eventually finds the blocks. But Ares, aware of his former servant's success, kills Kratos as he's leaving the temple by hurling a large pillar into him. While Harpies take the blocks to Ares, Kratos falls into the underworld. He battles his way through the fiery realm, and with the help from his mysterious Garbdaker, who tells him Athena is not the only god watching over him, he escapes and returns to Athens. Kratos recovers Pandora's box from Ares, opens it, and uses its power to become godlike and engages Ares into a fierce battle. Despite Ares' best effort to destroy Kratos physically and mentally, including stripping him of all of his weapons and magic before forcing him to rely on his family's death, Kratos survives and kills Ares with the Blade of the Gods, a giant sword that was being used by an interdimensional bridge to Athens. Athens is saved, and Athena tells Kratos that although his sins are forgiven, the gods cannot erase his nightmares. Forsaken by the gods, he tries to commit suicide, but casting himself into the Aegean Sea, but Athena intervenes and transports him to Mount Olympus. As a reward for his service to the gods, Athena provides Kratos with a new set of blades and the seat of the new God of War. God of War from start to finish is a blast from the past. Even with its dated combat, it's still fun to revisit and play. Thank you all for so much for staying all the way to the end or skipping to the end. I really appreciate you guys staying around here with me. My next video will either be a Sonic Adventure or Uncharted to give you all a heads up, and stay safe. Peace, y'all.